Hello Internet and duelists everywhere, this is Tombox from MST.TV, and well, this is Tombox TV now. So welcome to the very first episode of Tombox Talks with our favorite guy from Team APS, Paul.
Hi, what's up?
So, Paul, in this very first pilot episode segment, I would like to ask you probably the questions that people ask you most often. How are you doing YugiTubing?
Pretty well. It's been a few years now, but I think I'm doing pretty well. I'm nearly at 40,000 subscribers, I guess, as of the time of this recording, and...
Oh, really? I haven't.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it. It's been an experience, man. I'd say I've learned some things, but it's been fun.
So, today we'll be actually asking the question, YugiTubing, are you doing it right?
Yeah, that's something I'm sure a lot of people do want to hear about.
I know, and this, you actually have probably the most, in terms of spike in popularity, your subscriber count, rapidly increased, far surpassing those who've started before you. How did you actually do this?
I definitely couldn't put it into one particular thing. There are just a lot of parts. But I guess that's probably what we'll be talking about, so...
Oh, yeah. So, okay, let's start off with the very first question. How to be a successful YugiTuber? What's your take on this?
I feel like being a successful YouTuber, it kind of involves this duality of doing the same thing as everybody else, but also being unique and kind of pushing yourself further than they have. So, when I think of successful channels, there are a couple of older ones who I think, and maybe we can get into this a bit later, but there's some older ones who it kind of feels like they were maybe grandfathered into their success. They just happened to start in 2008 or 2009 or something when YugiTube was young and they just got a huge following. But most of the more successful channels now, they do a lot of the same stuff. It just feels like they do it a bit better and maybe with some sort of twist, some sort of added amount of dedication.
Okay.
And they grow fast because of it.
Yeah. As for the MST Tombox perspective, I started out I'm actually a pretty young channel, to be honest, maybe a year and a half now at the time of this recording.
Yeah, you guys started in what, 2013, 14?
I think November 2014.
Yeah,
it was a really young thing. We started off with 0 subscribers. No one knew who we were. No one really cared who we were. And to be successful, I personally started off by setting off a goal. I wouldn't say I'm very successful at the moment. I would say we're at the beginning of our success. We're seeing a bit of a result. But from 0 to 1,000, we were very lucky on our part to not struggle through 0 to 1,000. I hear there was a lot of people that struggle through that.
Yeah, that's actually a great thing we should probably talk about is in terms of advice for newer channels, that first 1,000 subs, that is literally just the grind. People are always give me a shout out or give me a guest upload or how do I get a lot of subs. It's the grind. I really think some channels I think are more fortunate than others. They get it a bit faster. Maybe they got a lucky guest upload. Maybe they really are just good and unique. But for most channels, I think it's just you gotta grind it through, just fight, be consistent, be persistent.
And I actually absolutely agree with you. The grind is real. A lot of people expect to, this is a very, very bad misconception. A lot of people expect that, oh man, I should just upload these 1 or 2 videos and see how they do. Well, the reality is it's not going to do very well. First of all, you have no subscribers.
Yeah, no following at all.
So who's going to actually be able to view your content? Who's going to share your content? Your search result won't even show up at the top. In other words,
not even close.
Yeah, you're not even close yet. So how do you actually get that exposure? And this exposure is key to grinding out that first 1,000 sub.
Yeah, I really do think it's one of those things too where it weeds out the boys from the men type of thing.
Yep.
If you just sort of see this as oh, I play Yu-Gi-Oh and I happen to have a camera, I'm just gonna throw some of these videos up and we'll just kind of see how it goes. Oh, I want to get subscribers like everybody else. Then you find out that a lot of that first 1,000 subs is not it's going to be like sort of in a way a waste of your time. Like you're going to have to make many videos that won't get many views, so you're going to have to be putting in a bit of effort, but you still have to be just consistent enough to grow and just accept that a lot of that early work that you do is like, you know,
it's like it's worth it. Like, is there enough return for these?
Yeah, early on the return on investment is almost nothing. I mean, really, it's very gradual growth.
I agree with you on that point. And for that growth that people kind of want to, you know, try to want to get for the first 1,000, like, it's not impossible to get the first 1,000 very quickly. This is from personal experience. I got from 0 to 1,000 in like a month. Which is record time, and this is without any shoutouts or anything.
What was your secret, do you think?
Now, my secret was I chose to look at what the overall community did. I looked at the big channels, I looked at the small channels, I looked at some of the channels that I personally liked, and I took their strengths. But then I also realized there was a bit of content that was lacking within the community itself. Nowadays, it's very hard to find something that the community is lacking, of course, since there are so many YugiTubers out there now.
Yeah, things are airtight, that's for sure.
It's very airtight, and what we found was high production value YugiTubing never took off.
That's definitely what your channel, I think, is. Because, I mean, like, when I think about it, that really, you know, as production value goes, there really isn't a channel that like sorts it out and like kind of keeps it organized, uses visual assets to guide the discussion, and like you've kind of been doing that basically from day one. So yes. I mean, it's really
thank you.
I do think I noticed it. I really do think that got helped a lot, because it's like I can watch some guy like, you know, just blabbering on his webcam about how much he thinks this new card's gonna cost, or I can watch an MST TV video where, like, you know, it's a market watch and the cards are like lined up on the screen and the numbers they're there, and like there's evidence, and like it's kind of got a structure.
So the visual elements and the efforts that you put in definitely matter in terms of pulling your subs, and you know, your efforts will pay off in the long run, to be honest. And
yeah,
it's actually a lot of my very first video was the Vanity's Emptiness talk. Like, when Vanity's Emptiness started to gain popularity, a lot of people had a lot of misconception of how it was ruled and how it was supposed to be played. So I decided to do an edutainment video, the rulebook segment, on how it would work and how certain combos played out. And we gave you full visuals, recorded multiple scenes to actually give that and deliver it. And it was really well received. Now, how, like, even though we did make that video, how did we attempt to show the world is we approached the other side of the community, which is Reddit. Reddit's
great, so underrated.
But you got to be very careful when you do post on Reddit. You do not want to get shadow banned because they don't want you to be promoting anything on there, to be honest.
Yeah, you really do have to be clever.
You have to be accepting of feedback, especially when your new channel starts off. You can use the Reddit to kind of get feedback from like the Yu-Gi-Oh Redditors. They're really
good about it.
They're really honest, and if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, well, they won't like you. At least some people, you'll get some exposure, and that's how you can actually pull some early subs.
That's true. Like, because there are always people who are looking, I think, on Reddit for like
a decent video.
Something to watch. You know, like something interesting, something kind of different.
Now, don't go there and dump your content constantly. Only post quality things that you believe that should be shared with the community. The community would like really appreciate.
Can we use that as a segue into just the general topic of don't dump your links everywhere?
Yeah, well, I guess
you know, whenever, but that's
gonna be like some of the do's and don'ts. Yeah, but yeah, so that's how we kind of broke out of the first 1,000, and eventually the TCG lover found us. Yeah,
I know his channel. Yeah, he's cool.
Unfortunately, he's kind of stopped doing YugiTubing, and he's made his channel a community channel to share posts. I suppose everyone can go talk to him. He's a really nice guy. So here's another question. Aside from like being a successful YugiTuber, what would you rather be considered, a YugiTuber or a YouTuber? It's kind of personal here.
I mean, as for me personally, I would rather be a YouTuber. I think that it's a perspective thing that people are, like, many YugiTubers kind of are missing in a way. I think that you grow a lot faster when you consider yourself a YouTuber and not a YugiTuber. And I think that if I had to make the difference, what the difference is I see kind of the typical YouTuber as somebody who they put Yu-Gi-Oh before YouTube. So for them, this is just one of those things where it's like, oh, I play this game and I like it, I might as well make videos about it. Whereas a YouTuber is more like, I want to make videos about something. Oh, here's something that I like. I'm going to make it into a video. So I kind of feel like it's two different perspectives. And when you're a YouTuber, you view things in terms of like branding and audience retention and growth and community. And when you're a YugiTuber, you kind of see it in terms of just Yu-Gi-Oh. So it's like, oh, well, you know, this is some Yu-Gi-Oh news, I might as well talk about it, or this is just me showing my deck. That's all it really is. I don't see like a future in these videos. It's just me showing whatever Yu-Gi-Oh related thing or thought that I have.
Okay, you know, that makes sense. To some people, I understand that different people have different kind of skill levels in terms of like their video editing ability or their visual design ability. And when you got into, to spoke about branding, I think branding is one of the most important things. Like, to be a successful YouTuber, just not like YouTuber, you need to stand out, and you must have personality to do so.
Yeah, you really do.
And the branding, like, I've redone branding for several channels, actually. Like, you were probably the first one.
Check Tom, like, if you need good stuff, by the way, like, you know,
oh, yeah.
As if you need a plug in your own video.
I don't need a plug in here, but yeah, I rebranded. I helped you, Paul, to redo your branding on your channel. I've also redone Complexity Card Gaming. You know, CCG, those guys that only do competitive stuff. I've helped out Inch95. I've helped out. I helped out quite a bit. I think I've been getting a bit more work in that regard, but branding is super important because it helps you stand out. It'd be like looking at a thumbnail and knowing that, oh, that's that guy's video. I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing, I think. And like sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, I sometimes feel like my thumbnails like get a bit monotonous where it's like, oh, these all look the same. But on the other hand, it helps to be able to, like you said, you know, be able to look at a thumbnail, oh, that's a Team APS video or an MST TV video or whatever video,
like a Galactic God video, you know, like,
and it's like it's the next step that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think for a lot of people, that's kind of the step that goes from like, I'm just tossing together Yu-Gi-Oh videos and just putting them out there to this is like a channel, you know?
Yeah. Now, see, that's the thing. You know, when people start off doing these videos, like, I'm pretty sure you get a crap ton. Like, most of the big YugiTubers, or even the ones with, I say, 1,000 subscribers or more, those YugiTubers, they tend to get a lot of people saying, oh, hey, man, you want to give a shout out to my channel or something like that? And
don't get me started.
I know, but like, that's the thing is, I personally do actually check out the link you send. If it's like a YouTube link, if it's a tiny URL, don't expect me to click it because I don't know where that's going to take me. But if it's a YouTube link, I will actually review it. And to be honest, sometimes I don't want to reply because I don't have anything nice to say. And,
yeah, that's my thing. Like, okay, I will check out anyone who sends me a message saying, hey, I'd like feedback. I will check it out. Like, I will check it out, and I will usually respond.
Mm-hmm.
But if it, like, anything that's just, you know, link dump, check out my channel, but like, they don't want feedback, they just want me to check out their channel, or they're just like, oh, give me a guest upload. No, I don't even bother with that.
Yeah,
but like, if it's like someone who's wants feedback, sure, you know,
like, if they want feedback, for sure. I've there are a couple of guys that I legitimately just gave them feedback on things that they can do better. Like CCG Complexity Card Gaming, they came and found me, and I gave them like a full lecture of how to do these videos, including all my personal techniques of how to do it. Eventually I'll show it on this channel of how to actually record, how to control the timing of your replays on Yu-Gi-Oh Pro and whatnot, to actually, so you guys can do better replays. But enough about that. Like, technique and everything, you'll eventually see it. But like, everything about people like just wanting shoutouts and everything,
you gotta build a brand. You
gotta, like, make yourself stand out. Like, we do check out your stuff, and if it's good, we will share it. And if it's not good, like, think about it on our perspective. Like, we have our audience that basically they trust us, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to, like,
to send them to a channel that, you know,
Like it'll just ruin our own credibility.
And by extension, I like to, for anyone watching this, when you ask somebody to, check out my channel, give me feedback, or give me a shout out or whatever, be sure that your channel has enough for the person for it to be worth me sharing. Because like you said, if I share this with my subscribers, that's like me telling them, hey, Paul, trusted guy, is telling you that this is a good channel that's worth your time. And then if it ends up being a channel that has like 5 videos, and the last one was like 2 months ago, and the one before that was like 5 months ago, and then like next month they're just inactive completely, that's not worth my time. Like, it sucks, but it's like that, what we were saying about that early grind. You just gotta grind it out and then have enough content and branding and consistency to where, like, if I'm sharing your channel, people have something to watch. Exactly. And they can, if they do like what you're doing, there's more of it for them to see.
That's actually very true. A lot of your older videos, new subscribers tend to go digging. And this is based on the analytics that YouTube gave us. And they will go digging, and they will view like a lot of your other videos. And if they see something interesting, they will share it. The more you have, the quicker you'll get out of that 1,000 below. It's
really true. And like, I think, people forget that they're just like, oh, well, whatever, I just want, get rich quick scheme. But it's like all of that archived content, all of those, the biggest one, the best one is, and I don't even have this currently really, but if you have a segment and the most recent video on your channel is like an episode of that segment, and Paul or Tombox or whoever gives you a share, and I'm random Joe Blow, and I go to your channel and I see the segment, I'm like, oh, interesting. I want to watch the entries in that segment from before. What was last week's episode of this like, or however often you do it. And people will like go through and like binge watch sometimes, like if it's a really good segment.
Yeah.
And that can get you a lot of, that's like growth, right there. That's more views, and they'll probably share one if they like it that much. So
sharing your stuff through the word of mouth is much better. You get much more loyal viewers. Like, you'll know for a fact that as your channel grows, people will either drop your channel or continue watching. And you'll, like in the YouTube analytics, you'll see like, oh, subscribers, you gained this many. Like, oh, you gained 25 today, but then you could have net gained 25. You could have lost like 30 guys, but instead you gained like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They always show you these numbers, and these numbers, like, I think a lot of YouTubers don't realize how important the analytics are.
I think a lot of YouTubers don't even, I'm not going to go, I don't want to say like they don't know, but I'm seriously convinced that, even channels like around my size, slightly smaller, slightly larger, analytics are so underutilized. There's so much valuable information in those.
Yes.
It's kind of mind-boggling, like when you consider just how much info YouTube doesn't have to give us, like they could just be like, well, here's how many subs you have and how many views you get, and that's like it.
But the thing is, YouTube sorts out like every single video and gives you analytics, like the data behind each video, like each views behind each video for you. And I think that's a very important tool that I think a lot of young YouTubers should go take a look at that and learn from it. I learned that my most successful videos on the channel, the ones that pull the most subs are probably the ones that are hilarious. The ones that get the most views are the dueling commentary, and based on that, you can kind of skewer, like you can cater towards your audience. Like,
yeah, you can trim the fat, I would say. Like if you've been doing several segments and you're noticing that certain ones get more views than certain others, then that tells you what to,
what you should
kind of cut out, what to refine.
Yeah, like it tells you where your strengths are and tells you where your weaknesses are, and I think that's very important. So these are some things that like tips from Paul, which has been growing super fast, and me, like a young new YugiTuber, recently breaking what, like 11,
you're to like 11,000, nearly 12,000.
Yeah, after the subscriber cut, we lost like 120, which was very good news for me because, well, 120
you don't want to
means,
know how many.
I don't know. How many did you lose?
You don't want to know how many. You don't want to know. It's not pretty.
Well, the thing is, YouTube cuts like the inactive subscribers out of your subscriber base. Yeah. Me only losing 120 means I'm very happy with my subscriber base. They're really active.
Yeah, lucky. I mean,
but then again, it's different. It's different though. Channels. It's
I wasn't
different,
as
though.
bad as certain channels. I will say that. I know some YugiTubers who were not pleased with their subscriber loss, but you know.
Like, I'm different because I'm really young, so it's pretty obvious that my YouTube subscriber base would be more
It's more,
active.
yeah, it's more recent, more active. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's the difference. And you've been doing this for how long?
It's like 5 years.
5 years.
I don't know. More. I don't know. You know, also, just kind of on a related note, I do think that people people kind of see their subscribers as a number, but, you know, that's definitely, and this kind of, I guess, ties into branding a bit too, but it's like, you know, your subscribers are a community too, so, like, that's
Yes.
something that, you know, is worth investing a bit in.
How involved should you be with your community? Like, how important do you view them?
I mean, well, I think that, you know, of course, responding to comments that should be like the bottom line of, you know, this is the minimum you can be asked to do is respond to comments. Not all comments, you know, some comments are just like, oh, this was cool. Like, you don't have to respond to that. But when people like leave comments, you know, specifically asking you something or like pointing out a very specific part of your video that they liked, then yeah, I think that's worth responding to. And that's just the bare minimum. I think that like social media is important. Maybe not like when you first start, but once you hit about 1,000 subs, I think that that's when you should definitely consider making a Facebook fan page. You know, Twitter is optional. It's not like that great for Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's a thing sort of too. And that's kind of where you can tell people announcements on there and ask them some questions and get some feedback there. You know, makes them feel like they're a part. And that's like, they will stick with you if you give them that gratification. Like, it's like, oh, like Paul responded, like this keeps me like fresh in their head and they'll be watching more of those videos and things like that.
And I think it's actually very genuine to actually respond to your fans. I mean, they are like, sure, there might be like one or two of them, but then as like a whole group, knowing that you're active and you're willing to communicate with them, you're like not putting up like a giant ego saying, oh, I'm the maker, oh, I don't need to talk to you people. Like, I think everyone's at a similar level. Like, you should always be reachable. Like, you can't be,
because we're all humans, you know.
and like, you need to be relatable to your audience and being able to communicate with them, share ideas with each other, you know, and like genuinely, like, your loyal followers are your friends. They are your friends. You can't say they're not your friends. Well,
and as you grow, you'll definitely notice too, I think, because, you know, at this point, something you gotta expect is that, you know, you're gonna get haters and stuff, but the cool thing is, as you grow and as you interact with people, they will like you and they'll defend you. So like when you upload a new video and someone's just like, this is trash,
the trolls,
this is so bad, you know, your loyal subs will like swoop in before you even get to the comment. They will have like swooped in and, you know, just defended you. You know, like I've got people who will like literally break down negative comments and just be like, no, you're wrong, this is why.
Point A,
you know?
point B, point C kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like, here's my essay.
So, like, what to take away from like your community is you gotta know that they make your channel strong. They help you grow your channel. They're the ones that are like sharing your channel out there. Always try to be nice to your community, of course. Like, just because someone gives you like critical feedback, you should not like attack them. Take some serious consideration on like the things they say, because they just probably want to help you improve, to be honest.
I agree. I've seen some channels that are like not as receptive to feedback, I think, as they should be, like, because it's so easy to just get defensive, right? Like,
I did it because of this.
Yeah, like I did it because of this, like, or like, well, here's why I did it, and here's why like you're wrong. It's, you don't understand. But it's just like,
I think it's pretty bad to call your audience wrong unless they're like actually just
yeah, unless it's actually a troll.
Yeah.
And like pure trolls are like rarer than people think. Like, yes, some people will tell you feedback in a not as friendly as you would like way, but like unless they're truly just being unreasonably,
if this is bad, this other guy makes it better. Well,
yeah, that, you know, there's nothing you can do about that. But then there are people who like, they'll give you feedback and they might not be the nicest about it, but they'll also be doing it on like every video and they're never insulting you. They're just, you know, so you know that they're a viewer. You know that they care enough about your content to be leaving these comments. Otherwise, they would have honestly moved on. Like,
yep. And like, you know, as like a personal experience, a few of my viewers, I think you guys know who you are. you guys started off being probably some of the most critical viewers I've ever had, pointing out this and that. Like, say I was doing like a combo video, you'd be like, this combo is wrong and all this stuff, and then the thing is, you don't just say this combo is wrong, you tell me why it's like not as good as combo B that you list in your comment. Then I actually appreciate it, because you're teaching.
That is the difference.
You're showing me something. Like that second line of you actually explaining why I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I
all the
appreciate
difference.
that, and we do appreciate this stuff.
It is all the difference when someone. It's the difference between someone just saying this video is bad versus this is the mistake you made.
Yeah.
That detracts from the video.
Yeah, so there's these things that, kind of go on. Now, okay, let's talk about quality. You are, like, known among the YugiTubing community to be the quality king.
Man, I don't know.
This is coming from a guy with super high production value.
I think it's definitely... Okay, well, a couple of things on that, I guess I'll say. So first of all, I do think that there is something of a misconception about, what quality is and isn't. Because while, maybe, Paul's videos look the nicest or up there, I think that there are a handful of channels I can name that I consider to have as good as or better quality than me. I think sometimes it's easy to just mistake it as just, oh, well,
he's good
crispy HD, I see it as more like you, for example, you have quality in the sense that, like, editing in those visual assets, like, your ban list analysis videos, your market watch videos, the rulings videos, to me, that's quality because you took the time and, like, it's actually a visual aid that's, like, doesn't, it's not like something I can just click 2 times, oh, well, it's all done for me. It's like, you had to make those assets and, like, animate the cards and, like, add that stuff. I see that as quality. I also see quality as just caring about lighting, audio, where you record the video. Back in the day, I know a lot of people just did the whole, like, dark room aimed at the playmat. It's just blurry and shaky.
Cell phone
and
camera.
Like, yeah, just recording on potatoes, and it's like, I think people shouldn't mistake quality with just, oh, it's 1080p or it's 4K. I think that quality is also just caring about the content you've made and, like, trying to improve it in the little ways. Because, like, that's true. Like, people, at the end of the day, people are not watching me for the quality. I know that for a fact. Like, I've gotten comments that are like, oh, I like your camera, what do you use and stuff. But, I mean, I don't think people are really watching for that at the end of the day. They're watching for just a good overall package, a good personality, and good quality maybe, and, good community sense and all of that stuff.
I think the community sense part is what really helps your channel drive, because not only can I talk with you, your video content brings about discussion, and then I could like subscriber A could talk to subscriber B, they can go into an argument, they can come to an agreement, and that's all part of the growth of your channel.
And that's actually kind of all part of, I mean, I guess you could call it my evil master plan, is I like to do these discussion topics, and I think that another channel who does them well is Olympio, but I like to do these discussion topics because it's like, you get my perspective, and I try to be like I try not to talk in extremes. I don't come into discussion just saying, this is the point of view that you must have on it. It's more like I'm presenting a situation or an issue or, just something. I'm kind of giving my stance on it, considering some other stances, and now it's like, all right, what do you think? Leave it in the comments. People leave it in the comments, and people will respond to each other. It's no longer just, them critiquing my video or disagreeing with me. It's them just sharing their thoughts, and then other people replying with their thoughts. And sometimes it ends up in an argument, and sometimes it gets nasty, but more often than not, it's just good, healthy discussion. And once you have people in your comment section replying to each other, that's when you're like getting somewhere, you know what I mean? Because you're now at the point where you've formed this community. People like care about you and what other people who watch you have to say.
See, here's the thing about like the people that are arguing with each other. It's actually a good thing. For what I have learned personally, through game design, whatnot. I'm like a designer and whatnot. You don't want someone to like your product. You want them to either love it and hate it, but not just like it. Because if they just like it, they'll be like, I like it. But then if they can love or hate it, then they care.
They'll say something about it.
Exactly.
Good or bad, they'll say something about it. And yeah, that's 100% true. A very, very quick detour. Like, I will get right back on topic, I promise.
Yep.
Very quick detour. That is actually why I think that people should not focus on highly viral things, such as, like, say, you go to nationals and you get the winning deck profile. You're like, oh, great, I got, not saying you shouldn't do this.
No, you should do it. You should definitely
that's
get
great.
it.
Yeah, you get a lot of views. But, sometimes I'll see those videos where it's like somebody recorded the, winning deck profile, like second or third place or something, and it gets like, 10,000 views, 20,000 views, 50,000 views, 100,000 views. But they don't gain any subscribers because it's kind of like one of those things where people like it, but they don't care who made it. And so since you don't, if your channel doesn't have anything else, you don't have any community behind your channel as it is, then those type of videos will get you a little growth, but
and they might go away. And they might actually go away realizing, oh, there's nothing new. And I get a lot, like once you start to grow bigger, you'll need to commit a bit more. Now, in terms of quality check for me, please don't use crappy audio. If there's anything to get as the first piece of tech investment, get a decent mic. Yeah,
audio will turn people away actually faster, I think, than bad video.
If I hear your video being like, this is the deck profile, like it irritates. Like the moment you feel any sort of irritation through the audio, you're done.
Yeah, people will turn it off.
Like, are you going
echo, static and hiss? People will turn away fast.
Okay, think about it this way: you can go into like a movie theater and watch like a 3D movie with the glasses on, and like it's sure you're not really seeing too well. Is it a better experience? Questionable. But then if like they had crappy audio inside the movie theater, you're out of there. You're not gonna watch it. You're not gonna watch it. It's like I don't know. Like, number one thing, get a good mic. Number two, thing is, nowadays cell phone cameras are pretty strong. So before I would say don't use a cell phone camera. Like now,
these days they're manageable.
As long as it's not shaky.
Yeah, as long as you have some sort of stabilization. Jamie the Kid used like his phone that's like all he's ever really used is his phone, and all his like profiles and stuff look great. It's just a matter of like it stabilized and well lit and everything. Yeah. Because if it's just some shaky, grainy mess, that's not gonna cut it.
So I wouldn't discourage people from using a cell phone camera, but at least put it on a rig or something just to keep it stable, and you know the rest.
I think in a more abstract way too, one of my quality checks is like, is this something that's useful to anybody? Is what I kind of try to think when I do a discussion or a theme duel or I ask people questions or a skit. Is like, because I had a period of time, I think we've all or many people have had this stage of growth where you're more concerned about putting out a video than you are about the video being good or bad.
Yes, this is directly related to some of the bigger channels, especially the bigger channels, in fact. Because there is a reason why they have to kind of do this, and I don't really blame them too hard for it now that I've kind of noticed what goes on when they don't post out content. Subscribers will leave, and it feels really bad when that happens, so they have to find some way to push out another piece of content. Here's the difference between you can usually differentiate when they are just pushing out something for their community to consume versus when they really put effort into it. Like Asian Eyes can clearly do it. He's earned his right to do it. To be, in fact, like a lot of people kind of get it wrong.
Yeah, it's true.
Like you have to build your subscriber base before you start throwing out video constantly, because the thing is, it's the thing that we mentioned earlier, the community. He has developed his community to have
to a point where they're accepting of anything, really, like more or less. And that's a lot of like the larger channels. Yeah,
a lot of the largest channels they kind of have to do, because if they don't post content, their subscribers will drop so much faster than someone that's very small. And I don't blame them for it. But here's the thing, though. What people are getting out of it is wrong, especially for new YouTubers. Of course, like how new YouTubers kind of think is, I'm gonna look at the most successful channels, see what they do, and maybe and then I'll follow their formula, and then I'll do similar videos, and I'll probably get views because of it. Now, the thing is, they're looking at the wrong content.
Yeah, I agree.
They should be looking at like their most popular stuff, because their most popular stuff is what made them successful, not the most recent. Oh, I'm gonna discuss about card ABC, and then
or yeah, exactly.
And then like, it's like a barely 5-minute video, and then it's like a discussion thing. You can't just start a discussion when you don't have a community.
Yeah, I think that just both discussions and other similar things. Like a good example I kind of like to use is people who upload just kind of random Dev Pro replays or YGO Pro replays, where it's just sort of like, that's what, because you can go to like Asian Ash's channel, or Galactic God does a segment where, people send them in, and like, so you see these larger channels and they do Dev Pro replays, and it's just like not a very long video, it's kind of a low effort video from them, and then newer channels will try to emulate that, but you don't have the padding, to be able to grow from that.
You're not Tainted Wisdom. Tainted Wisdom, if you guys don't know who he is, check out his channel. Oh my god. His replays are hella entertaining.
Yeah, and when I say like, Dev Pro replays, I'm typically referring to just the lazy kind of low effort ones. You can tell the difference.
There is a huge difference. I think I know what you mean. Like, several people think that, oh, I just post like a replay, check out my video, and like, well, they'll look at it, and again, it's like, oh, that's neat. There's nothing special about it. Like, most people don't tend to record themselves losing. It's a fun fact. They don't record themselves losing. They rather post a video of them winning. The opponent was misplaying and
crazy, explosive, sacky fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like I think people really that's one of those easy things where it's like you can't grow off of Dev Pro replays. I feel like you have to establish yourself to some degree, and then you can use them as supplementary content. I really like the way you use yours, where like, hey, you put a little bit of like a cool intro, and it's kind of themed as more of a.
It's a video game. It's a video. It's a stage by stage video game, and then
like you're using this deck as if it's like the character you picked, or the champion or whatever.
Speaking of like content, we're eventually gonna go into like different kind of content type, but starting with the replays that I kind of do. The reason why I did it in that sense, like a video game, and like in like those old school CRT TVs, is because, first of all, I do enjoy watching some replays, and sometimes I kind of like a build up. But for me to do those kinds of replays, you have no idea how many replays and how many games I have to play through to actually acquire that set of replays for me to make that video. It probably took me way longer than it should. It probably takes me about like a week or two of just playing 1 to 2 hours a night and only playing that one deck, and then altering the deck every now and then just to see what I can do. And I have to play very competitive games, like just rank yourself higher and higher. Yeah,
as opposed to what can very be like what I see, which is oftentimes like very low effort content where you can almost tell this person just threw the deck together and just like the first 1 or 2 games they got, that's the video, Exactly. Like I spend many hours playing through and just to find a good way to ramp the video up. Like, oh, this video is kind of like, oh, okay, so I played against these decks. I actually marked them down of which one to show first, and then like the very first game would probably be like, I would probably show you the very basic combo that I'm probably gonna execute almost every game, and then I would probably show you some of the brick hands that I could try to win with, and then say I show like the same opponent twice. Then I try to make a comeback. Like he's one of those guys in a video game that you fought him and then he ran away and now he's kind of back as like the next level boss kind of thing. See, that's what I kind of do. And I always save the best replay for last. Like the ones that are like, holy crap, how did this even happen? That's what I would say for last. And usually, funny thing is, I always choose to lose the last game. I mean, but I think that's actually a really nice touch too. Like something that makes these stand out as opposed to super generic replay of super generic build of deck,
Like, that's how I focus on doing replays. And I think, speaking of content type now, so there's replays. How I do it is different from what most people do. You do your discussions in your ways. There's also like live duels that people do. There's market watch. There's deck profiles.
So many different segments.
There's like a lot of the, okay, first of all, let's get this part out of the way. Staple content. What most YugiTuber channels should have.
Yeah, so I definitely think that, you know, there are some basics, right? Like, deck profiles are to some degree a staple, you know.
Yeah, like most channels will have them.
Many channel, yeah, you just showing them. What else would you say?
I would say discussions should be a staple.
Discussions.
But then every channel is different. You don't, just because it's a staple content does not mean you have to have it. It's not something that you are like, your channel depends on, like, oh, that channel has it, why can't I have it? Look at Yugimation. He only does animation.
Yeah.
He's not even going with any of the staple videos at all. He's got his own gig going. He's just making really funny cartoons for us to watch, and that's his thing. And look at how he's doing. He's doing very well.
I think this is one of the most important things when it comes to each of the staple types of videos. You know, deck profiles, duel videos, discussions. Which, in my opinion, that's kind of the holy trinity in a way. Like
the basic thing that identifies like YugiTubing.
Yeah, most content kind of comes back to one of those, with maybe kind of a fourth one being like pack openings or something. But I do think that,
like,
go ahead.
Sorry, let me just cut in here for a sec. And here's the thing about pack opening: don't do pack opening if you're small.
Yeah, there's no use.
You're investing so much money for very little return in the very beginning. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
It's rough. Yeah, I was gonna say, I just feel like those are the sort of three pillars. I guess like the fourth pillar, I don't really know if I consider it one, but you know, those are like the three pillars. It's important when like considering them that as a growing channel, it helps to do all three of them to some degree. You don't have to, but it helps. You know, it's just when you're in that 1 to 1,000 sub range, they're good, easy things to put up. I do think though, with each of them, there is like kind of a minimum quality standard for each. Like things that you should emulate, things that you should avoid. Like I always feel like with deck profiles, there's kind of a magic length of time that, you know, you should kind of, a threshold, not like, you know, an exact amount of time. You know, don't drag on, but also don't run through it. Things like that, you know. Focus on what you like about your favorite deck profile channels. Like say you love watching Jamie the Kid's profiles. You know, what does he do so well? Because I think that's something people like these channels, but don't just stop to kind of watch them and see like what makes Jamie's deck profiles so much better than Joe Blow's. You know,
like the breakdown of how they do it is actually just as important. Like I'm trying to give you our insight about how we look at different Yu-Gi-Oh channels or just YouTube channels in general. How to break it down. Like the thing about okay, I guess we'll start off with, I already talked about replays, so I'm going to talk about deck profiles, how I do it. I don't take it in one consecutive shot. I do like for my live deck profiles anyways. I had a couple replay based deck profiles because those cards don't exist. They're like OCG based stuff, and I usually attach a combo with it. But for live profiles, you guys have seen us do two different types. We've done the in-depth ones and we've done the tournament ones. Tournament ones usually very quick because this isn't our profile, this is our guest's profile, our guest of honor, the guy that played the deck. He's doing his profile. You'll have to like let them be in the spotlight.
Yeah, they kind of do it how they do it.
Yeah, let them be in the spotlight, but educate them of how you're gonna do it. So what we do is we take two shots. We do all the intro and outro stuff all in one take, and then we go into the profile. And then in post, we edit that part out, and then we just split it in two and put that in the middle. That's how we do it.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about like the shaky cam and whatnot. I was like, oh, how am I gonna move the camera and whatnot? We'll just split it into two takes, and it's much easier. You can refocus the camera. And educating your interviewee is very important because they
let them know like what you're looking for in the video.
Exactly.
Both in like composition
good.
And things, but on also, you know, in just content.
Like you tell them like this is where the cards are gonna show, and tell them how you're gonna pace it so that they're not gonna be like this, this. They just did card dumping basically. Every single time we do a video, we like focus on the 3 cards and make sure that they're positioned in the right spot. Well, apparently you guys have commented quite a bit of like, oh, I like how you do your deck profiles. And that's like the MSG TV formula. And,
Yeah.
And have a tripod. Honestly, just have a tripod for this because no one wants a shaky cam for a deck profile. And lighting.
Yeah, like you can like lighting. Oh god, yeah.
Lighting is super key too because usually when people do a deck profile, they have sleeves on their cards, of course. And if the light is directly over top of you, you're gonna get a really strong glare, and they can't see the card art or the card text or whatnot. Move your filming position for good content. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, I think that extends to not so like duels are a little bit easier to record in the sense that like if you can just get the basic kind of overhead view, like you're more or less good. Like I would like to think most people aren't going to record a duel with a handheld, but I mean I've seen it done, so I had to mention it anyway. But I think deck profiles are kind of one of the parts that take a lot of polish. Like, it's not that, your first one's not going to be perfect, but it's one of those things that you can refine it more, I think, than people give it credit for. Like, the whole process of giving a deck profile.
Like, the process, you should refine it, kind of streamline it. Eventually, you can break it down to, like, a very, very systematic way of doing it. Sure, it's not as fun by that time, but hey, it's the content that makes it fun at that point. So you have that kind of creativity.
Speaking of systematics, I do think, and this can go for discussions and everything. Just having like kind of a typical way that you start and end videos and things like that goes a long way with, being recognizable, right?
Yeah.
Like
people like repetition. They like to know a pattern whenever they
like to know that, which gets me kind of into schedules too. Like I don't think that like straight schedules are very common in YugiTube. Like it's YugiTube. I don't think people care so much. But I do think it helps to have some kind of repetition, some sort of, this is how I start, this is how I end my discussions, this is what you can expect from a Team APS one, this is what you can expect from an Alenthio discussion, you know.
It's all part of the branding. See, now moving on to the next type of content, live duels. I think this is one I can probably give a lot of insight about. First of all, I set up a rig whenever I do my live duels. At first, I did the rig, but then my camera was too heavy, so I had to change back to a tripod. But now that I've switched to a camcorder, I can do the rig again. So your equipment weight does matter, so keep that in mind. So what I use is a telescopic mic stand. And then I bought an adapter to switch the audio, or the audio thing that hooks up to your mic. Instead of hooking onto a mic, it's hooking onto a camera instead now. And then I have it built like a kind of like a hangman kind of thing. It's like a T. And then I put the camera on the other end. And that's how I do like the top-down 90-degree angle. Now, see, about recording games, having stable footage is very important and all, but make sure that the glare isn't ruining your shot. But aside from like just the technical stuff about how I record duels, I chose to remove most of the audio in my duels. Like, I'm sure you've noticed.
Yeah, you do commentary over it.
I do commentary over it. And why do I not post raw duels? Like, I have an overlay and everything. I have, like, the life point counter. I have both players left and right. I make it like a video game overlay almost between 2 players. And that's
it looks a lot like what you'd expect from a live stream for like a gaming tournament.
Yeah, so that's it makes the viewing experience a lot better. But not only that, I chose to remove the audio. The audio removal is a very conscious one, based on my.
I think the duel videos. I think the duel videos more than anything is because like when you record them at locals, like there's just kind of no telling what like will get caught in the audio, and I for no reason other than to avoid like potential,
I mean, sure, you get a good sense of the community and whatnot, but the thing is, most of that is just noise, and you don't really care for it. But except that if you mute it all out, it's bad. I've actually noticed if you actually mute out the entire audio, it's bad. Like people kind of like hearing the little subtle like card slapping and whatnot. The ambient. So I kept it at a very low level so that you can sometimes hear the players talk, because the players are much closer to the camera. They can talk and the mic will pick them up. but then keeping it like at a very low level, like I like lowered by about 24 to sometimes 30 decibels. You still hear them. You know that they're there. You know that this is not just some like silent movie or anything. This is, you know that there are people. You can hear them. But then I chose to commentate over all of that just so it feels like a live game experience. And
yeah, I agree.
And then
it does
we can break down the play-by-play. But just to make sure, live duels. One of the worst things that could happen in a live duel, aside from shaky cam, is bad camera lighting. If there's a light directly above you, your cards will all be white. You can't see the cards. In other words, you can't even commentate after the fact. It becomes super difficult.
I really do, more than anything. And I've made the mistake myself. You know, I've had videos, duels I've recorded where it's just like, why did I not notice this? Like there's a glare or something, or just any number of issues.
Yes. So that's like, so here's what to take away from like live duels. Make sure that when you record, you put cards in every single card zone, or like just swipe a card through your camera viewfinder and see
just
if
to
it
get
has
an
a
idea.
glare. Like there's a lot of pre-checks before I record a duel, which is why I get such good quality in terms of like the focus and everything for all of these duels. Now, there's other kinds of content. I guess I'm gonna have to cut it short because we are running low on time on this. But there's Market Watch segment. It's also really nice to have someone that knows what they're talking about. Like, if you have like, I know you guys don't like vendors and whatnot, but like when I chose to do YugiTubing, we chose to do it as a group. Like Oscar, myself, and Kenny. We all have a different aspect that we bring to the table. Aside from me being like the tech genius, whatnot, self-praising, but like aside from like being the techie guy that can run the channel behind the scenes and also being able to play the game, bringing other people to the table is very important. Like you have your group as well, Paul. Like they bring
we kind of do have some different personalities and some different perspectives, and it kind of helps when people are able to have like a person they like or relate to more. You know, that's always good.
See, Oscar is like a super competitive player, and he likes to go into like the ethics kind of thing. Whenever he does a discussion, it's usually like an ethics thing, and he usually brings like something new to the table. Like when he went to Asia and like just started recording the scene over there, you know, it was like something fresh, something new, something that we don't usually get to see. Kenny is like, he's a business major, so he follows the market trends of Yu-Gi-Oh pretty tightly, and then he always looks up new things. So yeah, he's a bit of a vendor himself. So he brings that to the table. So which is why he does the Market Watch segment so well.
I'd say moral of the story, if nothing else, is, you know, if you so I'm not saying you have to involve your friends in your channel, but if you do, play to their strengths. That definitely helps. Play to your strengths, whatever your strengths are, like with your segments. You know, just if you're doing a solo channel and if you're not into prices, don't try to do a market watch. Like, you know, and if you don't like opening packs, don't open packs. Like, I think that it's important to kind of see where you can be successful doing really whatever you want. Don't force yourself to do, you know, things you just really don't like. It comes over in the videos. People will notice.
So here's the thing, like, about all these kinds of segments is that you don't have to do it just a certain way just because someone else did it a certain way. See, pack opening, I tried my very first pack opening with the Breakers of Shadow case, I believe. I just turned that whole thing into a game. It was not even about pulling the best money card in the set anymore. It's about not pulling bad and getting punished. See, everything can be like, you can approach it with a different angle, and then it'll be watchable for a completely different reason.
Yeah, I think that, you know, with pack openings, it really comes down to either you got to do it creatively and have fun, or you have to be like the first guy to get up the box opening of a new set. And more often than not, you're not going to be the first guy. So it helps to try to put some creative twist on.
Yeah. Have a creative twist. Deck profiles can have creative twists. Discussions can have creative twists. Even duels can have creative twists. So anyways, that's enough about content type. We have 2 more topics to go into. There's another type of video that you see we have done before. Both your channel and my channel have done before, which are skits, sketches,
Yep.
And you wonder why we don't pump out so many of these. Like vines are so much easier to do than skits and sketches.
Yeah, you would think, oh, they get so many views, why don't they just do one of those every week?
First of all, the idea pool is very limited. You have to find something that everyone can relate to. Second of all, recording these takes many angles, and
many cuts, much manpower sometimes.
Manpower is like a must-have. It takes so much effort. Like, okay, here's the rule of thumb. For every minute you do is 1 hour of editing, and that's being
that's being generous.
That's being undercuttingly generous. And just so you know, like, these things take hours, and like the cooperation you need with the crowd that's recording with you, that is something that a lot of people kind of don't have the patience for. They're like, oh, I already did the cut once, why don't you just use that? Well, if it's no good, then it's like I didn't do it yet.
Yeah, and so now it's difficult because, you know, not only do you have to worry about it yourself, like, oh, I need to get these angles, I filmed this wrong. You've also got to deal with like the people who are in the skit who don't understand that that's how video works, and they get impatient, and
and then like the whole thing kind of just falls apart. So you have to educate your audience. When I did the Bistro Butcher episode, holy crap, I'm glad I brought on the people that I did. Oscar and Kenny probably didn't want to do it. They told me like after the fact that they did not want to do that segment because it's just way too much work. Spent about 5 hours recording that one. And then I had about 100-something pieces of footage to deal with for that 7 minutes.
Skits are rough. Suffice it to say, skits. If I could do them every day,
I would.
I'd love to. I mean, like,
it's so fun.
All of my skits, they're fun to do, and they feel so much more rewarding because it's that rare space of time where you're actually able to like move out of the YugiTube bubble and more into just the
YouTube bubble.
Videography YouTube bubble, and so. That's why they're so fun and fulfilling, but...
And they're the videos that you actually go back to watch.
Yeah, but it's the skits. At the end of the day, the skits are the ones that are truly remembered by more people than just you. It's just, you know...
Oh, did you guys check out MSTTV's Fire Lake video? Oh, what happened in that one? Oh man, it's hilarious. And like, did you check out the Clifford one? You get those kinds of people like watching your video and they just share it like crazy. It's really, really rewarding, and they are the biggest sub-pullers, to be honest. They want to go back to your channel to see more of that stuff.
Yeah, but then they want to share. They want to bring in their friends.
Yeah, if they get one friend to like it, normally what's the case is they'll bring their friends to kind of like it too. So they have like a group. They have like a friend discussion. They got their own thing going on too. So it's pretty nice. So yeah. Paul, do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts. I will just name a few quickly. Actually,
I'll join in. We'll take turns. We'll take turns on this.
Yeah. All right. So. You start first.
Okay, I'll start first. You know, I'm gonna start with a don't. Don't put a link in your comment, because guess what? No one's gonna see it. It automatically gets filtered out by YouTube itself.
I'll say, here's a good one then. Do pay attention to your titles, descriptions, and tags. Those are important things. Those give YouTube metadata, and having your videos, like, you know, kind of nice and neat like that, having them organized, that's a big do.
Make sure when you hit 1,000 subs, change your channel name. We don't like that long string of text. If you want someone to promote your channel, change that. It actually helps out a lot.
Don't respond angrily to comments. If it's negative, you know, the best thing you can do is, you know, if it's abusive or something, just, you know, you can ban the person or remove the comment. But if it's just kind of like a generally mean comment or something kind of controversial, don't respond negatively to it. You know, you can always thank people for the feedback or, you know, politely disagree with them. I've seen too many channels who will just hop into the comments and like actually just get down and dirty and fight. People are watching and it doesn't do anything for you.
Check your camera focus. You don't want to record a whole segment and realize the whole thing is blurry.
Yeah, and by extension of that, just double check all of your settings, like color balance, you know, focus, make sure that like your mic is on. I've literally recorded videos where my mic's on.
That's so true.
Like, you gotta double check,
and make sure you're recording in the correct aspect ratio. I've recorded a 640 by 480 video once. Yeah, it's not.
And nothing's worse than like, when you get home from locals or something you've been recording, and like
It's trash footage. Yeah.
I'll say do involve your friends sometimes when you can. You don't necessarily have to like bring them in as a complete part of your channel, but like if you're at locals or something, interview some players. That's always cool. Get profiles from them. You don't have to be the only person giving the profiles if you don't want to be.
Do be positive. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true because too many channels like are kind of built on negativity. I just complain about the game, but like at the end of the day, the most successful channels are pretty much the upbeat, positive guys.
That's true.
Don't link dump. I know I said this earlier.
Yeah.
Don't link dump. Don't like I won't name names, and I know guys who, they're in 50 different Facebook groups and they're just dumping links. Check out my channel. Check out my channel. Just links. Like no context to anything. Just link dumping. They're spamming, channels with the same message of just, hey, check out my channel for the best decks and duels. Here's the link. Come subscribe. And like that's just. Don't do it. Like, don't spam larger channels. Don't spam other small channels. One last do I have. Collaborate.
Collaborate. That's true. Like what we're doing now.
And the smart way to collaborate is don't ask, Galactic God for a shout out when you just made your channel. Find people who are relatively close in subs to you. If you have 500, then, aim for people who have between like 200 and maybe 800. I don't know. And find somebody who has a similar audience to you, but does it in maybe a slightly different way. And that's a great way to,
grow.
Kind of cross-pollinate, we'll say. I think that's, something that collaborate with people who are around your sub-level, similar to you, and you'll make contacts, and that's a really helpful thing.
It shows that you're willing to be involved. You're willing to help others as well, and it's a really good sign. So, the future of YugiTubing, where do you think this is going?
Yeah, that's a great one. I actually have talked to a couple of channels about this. You and I have talked about this kind of in the past, and there are also, I've got some other people I kind of chat about. I think that there's this thing in YugiTube where, as I said at the kind of very beginning of this video, there are a handful of channels, maybe more than a handful, who, in my opinion, are kind of grandfathered into their success in the sense that they started early and they just have a lot of views and they're kind of household names. But I think that the style of YugiTube moving forward is changing a bit. It feels like low effort content it's harder to succeed on just doing the bare minimum. And I think that people are more expecting of, it's 2016, like, good production value should be standard anywhere, but I think people are more expecting of like good audio and good video quality and consistency and kind of just sharper, crisper branding.
I think people are taking, like, a lot more people of this new generation is gonna take these things for granted because this is what they had when they were born. This is what they expect to have. It's not like our audience is like from, I don't know, the 1980s, 1970s, where, this is a really new thing. This is like standard. And the standard isn't changing, and I agree with you.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of cut into generations at this point, where they're like kind of the pre-2000, like 10 maybe channels, we'll say 2010, and then that kind of the pre-2000, you know what I mean? And so you've got these older channels who are kind of struggling, and I won't name names, but there are some older channels that have been very popular at a time that have kind of plateaued and they're stagnant. They aren't gaining subscribers. They're actually losing views. Their content stayed stale, and they don't really seem to know how to make the transition and kind of break the rut. And then you've got these newer channels, and I would say, there are several that go in the category, Olinthio and like other kind of modernist channels who are willing to try new things and kind of willing to, we're looking to improve our quality, and we have kind of a high standard of production. That seems like that's kind of, those channels are growing faster, and I feel like that's the future, where you're not going to be able to get away with just kind of tossing together any old video, any old just 2-minute news segment, and that's like it. Like I just feel like
the
that's
screenshot type.
Yeah, just where it's like, here's a deck list, and it's just like a DN screenshot with like an intro and an outro, and like and it's like a 1-minute vid, and that's just like I think that's
you know, it feels like it's not satisfying to see those anymore, especially with more and more people being able to push solid content. When you are a strong name and you compare yourself to someone that's new but putting a lot more effort, but then like sure you had more views, but then the one that is, you know, like truly improving their content, they're gonna be the ones that will be growing. So I usually use the comparison of, you know, back in 2006 or 2008, YouTube threw a party for Equals 3 William Johnson, who had the most subs at the time, 3 million. But now there's many channels with 3 million now. But then PewDiePie, he's at 14 million now, and he started later. So there's a
it really goes
difference.
To show that like I think
YouTube content is changing. It evolves.
YouTube content is different. Growing is faster when you start growing, but breaking out of the oversaturation is the challenge. Because think about it this way, you know, say 5 years ago when there wasn't a dueling network, and you know there wasn't a Dev Pro, that like, you know, you kind of had to stick out. These days anybody can screen record a Dev Pro replay. And so for that reason, when you start with your 0 subscribers channel, you can't grow on just screen recording some Dev Pro replays, or just screen recording, oh, here's a leaked card, everyone's doing it. And so like there's so much saturation that it's hard to stand out. But when you do stand out, I think in 2015, 2016, you'll grow much faster. And so that to me feels like the future, where it's like people who are willing to look forward. And one last thing about this too, before I forget it, I think that there is a bit of a future in the creative sides of YugiTubing. I think that we shouldn't just have to rely on like only Yugimation for animations. When, you know, more people should get into animation, cosplay type of stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard of Fluffable Sheep.
Oh, of course.
You know, and
you
things like that. Like Tombox, you made the video cooking the hungry burger.
Yeah, that was
like,
great.
I feel like there's a lot of potential for those creative, you know, animation and art and storytelling and cosplay. Like that type of stuff will, and art, like art alterations and stuff, you know, that type of stuff. If you want a very unexplored part of YugiTube, there's a great place to look.
I mean, you're gonna get like a very, very strong set of loyal subscribers if you do that, because first of all, not a lot of people are doing it, let's be honest. And even for the big channels that want to try and do it, they have to meet the demands of their current fans. And sometimes it means not being able to do the content that they want to do, but more towards the content that satisfies their viewer base. And if you can develop a viewer base on doing things that you like, that's when you get a balance of being happy and producing something nice. Now, here's something about facing the reality of YugiTubing. First of all, you're not going to be making much money. You can actually use YugiTubing to fuel this hobby, though. For sure. I would definitely say YugiTubing can fund your hobby of Yu-Gi-Oh! But there's also another thing, that great YugiTubers normally are not great players.
Yeah, that is.
There's a balance, and
yeah.
I guess I kind of want to explain this.
You can go ahead. Yeah, you got it.
I was a competitive player at one point, and I got my top. I actually got a lot of tops in 2015. Like that era was like really easy for me, but then I didn't focus as much into improving my content as much. I didn't need to dedicate the time towards it. I dedicated my time towards playing one really strong deck, which was Necros. I learned pretty much all the trick there is to know about it, and then that's what I really focused on. And then that's when you notice that most of my content during that era was a lot of Necros stuff. Like, we were known to be like, this channel is so blue. But then, what I come to realize is, if you want to be a good YugiTuber, you're going to have to make some sacrifices in terms of your time distribution. I mean, once you start YugiTubing, it's really, the best time to start is when you're a student and you don't have to worry about like a lot of expenses and whatnot. But, if you want to be a good YouTuber, you have to invest time in like your branding, your quality, learning new techniques. You're not going to have as much time for playing the game, per se.
I do think, yeah, and just to kind of expand on what you said a little, I do think players have a tough time being YouTubers, and because YouTubers sort of see it in a branding, a marketing, a growth way, whereas players see it as why can't I just do the content? Like, why can't I just show the deck profile?
Like they want to be the star.
Yeah, they just want to show the deck profile. They just want to talk about the deck and the meta and the future, the ban list, but they're not seeing it necessarily in terms of like an abstract experience for the viewer and a growth of a channel and a community and production value and like branding. They just see it as whatever medium lets me talk about the meta or whatever medium lets me show my deck off. Like there's kind of a divide, and that's why it's a lot of good Yu-Gi-Oh players tend not to be YugiTubers, and a lot of the best YugiTubers tend to be like very casual players, and like so yeah.
Competitive content is nice, but then think about it this way: competitive content is time sensitive. Once it's past its prime, you're not going to get many views on it anymore. Whereas, and then it's actually a lot more stressful to be like a competitive YugiTuber, because you have to constantly keep up with the latest trends and like the latest tournament results, and like build your decks and like show off deck profiles that are related to that, and
while simultaneously not actually necessarily getting the biggest audience, because the majority of players are casual. So you're kind of making this competitive channel, but you're only kind of appealing to a niche. I don't want to say like a super niche audience.
It's a niche. It's like it's an audience. Like if you want to have players that want to improve, they'll eventually look at your channel. But then if for people that just want to be entertained, you're not going to be able to reach out to them, because for instance, they're not going to understand a lot of the concepts that you're going to throw out, and that's what turns them off, and that can ultimately
limit your growth. Like I feel like competitive channels the glass ceiling is much lower. I mean, it's not to say that there can't potentially be a huge competitive channel if it does everything right and kind of innovates and stuff. But I think that generally speaking, like when you think of the big channels, you think, Simply, Asian Eyes, Galactic God, Cyber Knight, not competitive channels.
Exactly. And here's the thing, like I tried to be competitive, and that's why I had to bring aboard someone that is actually competitive, so I can brand out things that he talks about and simplify it for the majority of the audience. Not saying that my audience isn't smart or anything. Like a lot of them are really people.
But you really do. You got to market to the general, person.
Yeah, like you can't just do something super competitive and expect everyone to kind of understand it. It's like, sure, people will be amazed, but then that's it. It's one of those content. Oh, I like that video kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not like necessarily memorable, and you'll get the competitive people who follow it closely and they trust your opinion, but they'll be few and far in between.
I'm not saying like you can't be a purely competitive channel. Like you definitely can be, and if you become like the go-to guy for competitive stuff, even the non-competitive players would come and look at your stuff every now and then, and probably like actually be a part of your community as well. Of course, they wouldn't be as engaged in your content. Like they're not going to be commenting as much, because your community is like has more elitists in there, and if someone puts in like a stupid comment, they will be punished for it. And
that's a great point. That's a great point. Highly competitive channels, competitive players tend not to really like listening to other competitive players, so that alone makes it tougher to grow. But then also, if you ever make a mistake, be prepared to be like, kind of eaten alive, and if anyone in your comments
at the stake, right?
Yeah, and if anybody in your comments says something like that's not very informed, they might get eaten alive, and it can kind of create this feeling of, oh, this isn't a very friendly channel to hang around. People are mean and that type of thing. So
it happens. If you do competitive content, want everyone in your audience to be a bit smarter, kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
And if everyone feels like they're getting something out of your channel, they're feeling smarter by watching your channel, obviously they'll keep watching it.
Anytime your videos are offering value,
Yeah.
Make sure that your videos are offering something to someone. If it's just something that you would never rewatch, then it's probably not offering any value to anyone else. So I think that's a great way to look at it too.
Well, that pretty much wraps up. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your insights.
Yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed.
maybe I'll bring about
talk about, vocalize a lot of these things.
I don't know, it's something that I kind of want to get out there as well, because I kind of want to be like a good YugiTuber. I kind of want to be a good YouTuber, so that's why I posted on this channel, Tombox TV. Just
You seem like a good advisory role type of person.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Honestly, I hope someone got something out of it. It was a lot of fun.
Hopefully, this is gonna be a very long segment. If you actually got to the end of this segment, you reward yourself with a pat on the back or something, or go have some ice cream.
Yeah,
Really,
like I'm probably about to do.
Just go have some ice cream. If you like this podcast, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from MST TV, Team APS, please subscribe to MST TV or Team APS. And of course, subscribe to Tombox TV as well.
Yeah, I guess we're signing off.
Yeah, we're signing off here, and until next time, well, bye!
Later.